When I was really young, my parents split up. I was so young, I don't even remember how old I was when they did. I just remember not growing up with a dad. So I was 3 or 4 years old when we moved here. It was me, my 2 older brothers, and my mom. Basically, she raised all of us on her own, and I know it wasn't easy for her. So, yeah, I really have to thank the Lord for giving me a mom like that. I was 11 years old, and we were driving cross country. It was me and a bunch of relatives and my mom. We were driving cross country from California to Washington, D.C. And in the middle of the trip, in the state of Arkansas actually, we got into a really, really bad car accident. The van we were in flipped over multiple times. I think it was like 3 or 4 times it flipped over, and I broke my leg. And my mom, actually, she didn't survive. She actually passed away in the car accident. I just remember thinking, man, how much is this going to change my life, or how much are things going to change? I just remember I was a kid, I was 11 years old, I didn't know anything, I didn't know where I was going to go or who I was going to stay with, and it was really a really tough thing to handle. When I was about 12, 13 years old, I remember I was in junior high. I finally got to move to a stable household. My brother, Ivan, when he offered for me to live with him, I was just so happy. I was just so excited at the fact. And I moved to Virginia when I was 13, and this is actually the time I started getting into trouble. I was 13 years old, I was junior high, going on to high school. I was partying every night. I think I was smoking weed pretty much every single day. I drank a lot and lots of people to hang out with, but everything just felt really, really empty. Nothing really felt like it would last, or nothing really felt like home, basically. Everything was just for the moment, living for the moment, but I was not really finding what I was looking for. I remember sophomore year of high school, I started taking a class, a drama class actually, and I remember seeing this girl there. Her name was Stephanie Potter. I just remember thinking, man, she was really pretty and, you know, attractive, so of course I was attracted to her, like just to hang out with her, to talk to her. But the more I got to know her, the more I started realizing, man, this girl is really, really different. For one thing, she never cussed, which to me, we were in high school and everything, I couldn't imagine not cussing, you know, it's just part of our vocabulary. But she didn't cuss, and she didn't tell dirty jokes or anything like that, and something about that really just appealed to me, you know. She was really like a light in the darkness. So when I met her parents, they were actually pastors, they were actually church planters. The church that they planted was called Eagles Landing Community Church, and this was in Northern Virginia. They actually didn't have anybody helping them out, so they needed guitar players, they needed, you know, people for the worship team, and I played guitar, so they asked me if I wanted to join in, and I started playing, and the more and more I started playing, the more and more I started listening to what the pastor was saying, what the message was about. And I always knew that there was a God. I always believed in my heart that there was a God, and I knew it was Jesus, and I knew that he lived in the clouds somewhere. That's all I knew. I didn't really know anything about him, and I didn't really have a relationship with him at all. I started listening to the message, and this Jesus that the pastor was talking about was different from any Jesus I remember hearing about in Sunday school or anything like that. He talked about a Jesus of compassion, he talked about a Jesus of forgiveness. And I remember I was really taken aback. I was really stunned by the things that he was saying. And they all kind of, the weird thing is, it all kind of made sense to me. Everything fit in place. All the things that I heard about when I was younger didn't really make sense to me, but when I listened to him speak about God, speak about Jesus, it all started clicking. There was this one day when we were having worship practice. It was actually just me and Pastor Gary, and he asked me if I'd ever accepted Christ into my heart. And I didn't really know what he was talking about, you know, I didn't really know the terminology and all that stuff, but he asked me if I've ever just asked Jesus to be a part of my life, to be my Savior, my Lord. The moment that I accepted, the moment that I called out to him, I just felt this, like my heart kind of exploded. All these emotions were running through me, and I just remember my pastor praying out loud, and he was saying that God wanted me to hear that he was the only family that I needed to belong to. He was the only parent. He was the only father that I needed. And I had never told my pastor all these things before. I had never told him my issues about not having a dad, about how the way I emotionally shut down when my mom passed away, or the way that I was just bounced around from relative to relative, never knowing where I was going to stay next. I had never told my pastor any of these things, but he started talking about how God knew that I needed a family. God knew that I felt abandoned. God knew that I was seeking and I was looking for a place to call home. He said all these things to me, and I just couldn't contain myself. I couldn't contain. The tears were flowing through my eyes. I couldn't contain any of the emotions that were going through me. And I just remember feeling like I had finally found my place in this world, that I had finally found some place where I belong, a place that I could call home. And I really felt like my whole life I was lost. And like it said in the Bible, I was lost, but now I'm found. I really feel like God has truly found me. Now I just feel like I want to give back. I just pray that, God will use me in all the areas of His work so that I could, give back to Him. Take it from me, a kid that's been there, a kid that's just felt like an outcast all his life, to finally be able to call someplace home, to finally be able to have that stable rock. That's a miracle.